Hi there, welcome to this short video where I'm going to be talking through what endpoint assessment is and specifically what endpoint assessment is for the Dental Practice Manager Standard. So endpoint assessment is an independent assessment that takes place right at the end of your apprenticeship. So what it's there to do is to assess the knowledge, skills and behaviours that you've developed right the way through the training and the learning part of your apprenticeship, and it's done by someone completely independent. So it's a little bit in format similar to a driving test, So you're doing your driving lessons right the way through with someone who you're familiar with, your driving instructor, and then right at the end, someone who you've never had any contact before assesses you on that day to see whether or not you're competent to drive. So endpoint assessment is a little bit similar to that, but just obviously very relevant to the Dental Practice Manager Standard that you've been doing. So for the Dental Practice Manager Standard, the endpoint assessment consists of a project report and presentation and a professional discussion that's underpinned by a portfolio. So the project report and presentation, there is a proposal that's submitted at Gateway. So the Gateway point is when your training provider and your employer all agree that you're ready for endpoint assessment. So you'll submit a 500-word max project proposal, so submit that at Gateway. And then once you've gone through Gateway, you've got 60 days to conduct the project. So this has to be completed after that Gateway point. That project report should be 1,500 to 2,000 words, and really it should cover the introduction and background to the project, aims and objectives, the apprentice's role and responsibilities within the project, evidence of research, consultation and engagement of relevant stakeholders, evidence of effective management of resources and meetings, decision making and identification of measurable improvements and benefits. So you'll conduct and write that right the way through those 60 days after Gateway, and submit that to your endpoint assessor. So once you've submitted that, there'll also be a presentation where you'll present your findings throughout that report. So the presentation takes about 60 minutes in total. So typically that looks like 20 minutes presenting and then 40 minutes for a question and answer session based on what you've presented. So there'll be a minimum of 5 questions. There's also, as the second assessment component, a professional discussion that's underpinned by a portfolio. So this portfolio wants to be a concise portfolio, 10 to 20 pieces of quality work-based evidence covering the required standards that are detailed. The standards are detailed both on the Institute for Apprenticeships website, where you can view the full kind of apprenticeship standard and the assessment plan. And you can also find it in the guidance documents that we produced, where we go into quite a lot of detail about the different assessment components and how they're going to be assessed. So within that portfolio, really, you want that to be quality over quantity. So it should be concise pieces of evidence that really look at specific parts of the assessment plan. And, you can really clearly identify, okay, so this piece of evidence meets a couple of these different criteria. Once that's been submitted, you'll then undertake a professional discussion based on the portfolio that you've submitted. So that professional discussion takes 60 minutes, plus or minus 10% at the endpoint assessor's discretion. And what they'll do there is they'll look at the standards that they're there to assess. They'll look at that portfolio and ask you some questions to validate the evidence that's there, and also to maybe fill in some of the gaps if that portfolio doesn't quite meet all of the required standards within the assessment plan. And it's a professional discussion, so it's important to make that distinction, because a professional discussion is more than just a question and answer session. It's a free-flowing conversation rather than just a Q&A session. So they're the 2 components of EPA for the Dental Practice Manager Standard. So that's the project report and presentation and professional discussion that's underpinned by a portfolio. So some tips for the endpoint assessment. First of all, just read and understand both the assessment plan available on the Institute for Apprenticeships website, and also the guidance documents that we've produced. Make the most of our templates that we've provided for portfolio evidence. We've got a lot of guidance out there, so do just make use of as much of it as is relevant to you. Second up, try to use the professional discussion to reflect on working examples that are included in your portfolio. The evidence is there in your portfolio, and really it's your time to shine in that professional discussion and really elaborate on a particular point or particular working examples, and again to use that time to reflect on them as well. And the final tip is it's really, really good practice to link the GDC standards into your scenarios. So that way you can really demonstrate that professional competence throughout the endpoint assessment. So I hope that was useful for you. If you've got any questions about the format of the endpoint assessment, you can just get in touch with us. But best of luck. Bye-bye.